Welcome back to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show.
And welcome back, even with a little stutter on the welcome back to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show. I'm Craig L. Hayes Show. Welcome, everybody. And we're on episode number 4 with Ken Pace. And we're going to keep on talking about what he's been doing the last several years and what he would like to be doing in the next several years or decades. And he's only 80. Come on. So we're going to let him just tell a little bit more about himself, and then we'll keep on going from there and see where we go. Ken, it's yours again.
Well, thank you. I am only 80. Thank you, Craig.
You are a very
But I'm a
active
young
80.
I really feel
You
young.
are a very active 80.
I am. I want to go back to one thing. I mentioned that earlier that the state president at that time, President Warren, asked me to come back to church because I wasn't inactive. I just wasn't going a lot. So anyway, I came back to church and got real active. And he called me in his office one day, which is the stake office here in the center. He said, "Brother Pace, I want to call you to be the elder, at that time it was the high priest group leader." And I said, "Oh, President Warren," I said, I don't feel worried for that because I'm just kind of getting back, active and stuff. I've always had a testimony, but he says, "No." I said, "I want you to do that." So while I was the high priest group leader, I did a lot of work with missionaries. Okay. So I went out with, I don't remember their names. There were 2 younger missionaries. I went to a house called, the house was named, the people in the house were Ken and Lynn Allen. We walked in the house and shook their hands. We met them, and he said, "Yeah, we invited the missionaries over because we wanted to talk to you about some stuff." And the wife named Lynn, she said, "Now, we're not going to join the church or anything. We're just curious. We just got back from a show with with Donnie and Marie Osmond. We're curious. How can they be active in the LDS church, in the Mormon church, and still be in the entertainment industry?" She said, "We're really curious about that." Remember, the first thing she said, "We're not joining the church."
Yep.
And I said, "Well," we started talking, and I found out that Ken, they actually weren't married at the time. They had been living together for 9 years, okay? Ken said, "Well, I know quite a bit about the church." He said, "I read all your books and everything." And I said, I looked at him right in the eyes. I said, "Well, Ken," I said, because he told me how much he knew about the church. In fact, he used to babysit Bednar's, Elder Bednar's children, when he was growing up. And I said, "Ken, with all your knowledge about the church," I looked at him right in the eyes and said, "Why aren't you a member of the church?" And he looked at me right and he said, "Because my life is a mess." And I pointed my finger at him in his house. I'm pointing my finger. I said, "Then Ken, then clean it up." He looked at me in disgust, like he didn't say anything, but his eyes were like, I feel that thing like, how dare you talk to me like that in my own house,
Yeah.
And we both kind of calmed down, and he said, "I want to show you something." He went back into the bedroom and pulled out 2 shoe boxes full of genealogy work. He wasn't a member of the church, but he used to come and do genealogy because that was like one of his hobbies, one of his sports. He loved to do genealogy work. He told me on one of his lines he went clear back to 700 A.D. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, "Ken," I said, "this is amazing." Well, anyway, long story short, not just me, but the other missionaries taught him, Within 1 year, that was what year was that? That was 2014, because they got baptized and stuff in 2015. But before they could get baptized, they had to get married. They'd been living together for 9 years. They were a great couple. So they got married, I think it was August the 29th, and they got baptized the next day, the 30th. And I got to tell you, Ken Allen and his wife Lynn became some of the greatest, strongest members of our church. I mean, brilliant. Ken was very intelligent. He was a CPA by trade, very, very wealthy. And Lynn was just a darling, sweet-spirited lady, okay? Make a long story short, Ken, you know how we changed positions in the church, just because I was the high priest group leader one time, I can be a nothing or a missionary the next, Well, within a few months, within a few months, Ken was called to be, we went from where we were high priest, and they disbanded that, and we all became elders. You know, like
Yeah.
okay, to the elders quorum. Anyway, Ken Allen was called to be the elders quorum president, and he called me to be his first counselor. I mean, isn't that neat how that works? You know, it's not like, well, I've been in the church longer than you, Ken. I should be better than you. And
Yeah.
it's nothing like that. We all just love the church. We all just love people. And it's like, go ahead, you be the elders quorum president. It's your turn, baby, you know. And that's how strong he was. And Lynn Allen, absolutely beautiful spirit, beautiful lady. She and my wife Stacy, because remember Stacy was baptized in 2014. She got baptized a year later, 2015. They became really close friends. I mean, really close friends. Ken and I were great buddies, real friends. We did a lot of stuff together. And Lynn and Stacy, they used to go hiking all the time together. I mean, like 2 or 3 times a week. Not just Mount Charleston. They'd go to Death Valley, and I mean all kinds of places. And so it's really amazing how Stacy's a new member of the church, and Lynn and they. And, you know, to this day, Ken passed away just a year and a half ago in October of 2014. 2024, yeah. So every once in a while, Lynn and I will sit in church together as friends, you know. And we look at each other and talk about, like, you know, I got Stacy up there, and you got Ken up there. Like, how come we're still here? You know, it's like... You know, but that's a special connection I have with them. I love that family so much. You know, I'm just so thrilled about everything. Now, I want to tell you a few things about my boys. James, when Stacy and I used to go to church, you know, James used to bless the sacrament, and Charlie, my son Charlie, was he became a deacon and a teacher, and he would pass the sacrament. So there are times when Stacy and I would be sitting in church, and we had James blessing the sacrament and Charlie passing it. It was just a beautiful, like, this is wonderful, you know.
Yep.
Well, after Stacy passed away, James stayed active in the church. James is now an elder, just got married last August. He's 21, married a gorgeous, wonderful girl named Piper. Her name is Piper Elizabeth Gunning. Now she's Piper Elizabeth Pace, just a beautiful lady. My son Charlie, I have to pray for him every day. Charlie, while Stacy was still alive, Charlie was 15. This was 2023 in about October 2023. I remember I went in to wake him up to go to church. Charlie got out of bed. He said, "Dad, I'm not going to church anymore." I said, "Okay, why?" He says, "I don't believe in God. He says, I'm an atheist." Yeah, Charlie.
All right.
Yeah, I said, well, I can tell you've never been in a foxhole.
Yeah.
You know, they'll joke about, you know,
There are no atheists.
I
in
said,
the
well,
foxhole,
I
yeah.
said, at 15 years old, you can believe whatever you want. I said, but I'm going to tell you something, Charlie. The church is true. One of these days you're going to come back to church. He said, I'm never come back to church, Dad. He said, it's stupid. He's read about Joseph Smith, da-da-da. I said, well, you know what? You better focus. I said, you know, I baptized you when you were 8 years old. You were blessed with the gift of the Holy Ghost. I said, you need to accept the gift of the Holy Ghost. He says, Dad, I've never come back to the church. He's telling me that every day. Not every day, but often.
Yep.
So I went into the bedroom and told Stacy, because she was still alive. I said, Charlie just told me he's an atheist. She said, she started laughing. She says, don't push him. That's exactly what she said. Don't push him. I've never pushed Charlie, but I tell you what, every once in a while, I bear on my chest and I said, Charlie, I want you to know I absolutely love the church. I said, I'm not always the best dad. I'm not always the best person. I've made a lot of mistakes because of agency. I said, but I really want you to think about it. I said, someday, I really believe you'll come back to the church and be active. And he said, no, I never will. I never coming back. I said, well, don't say never. But I take good care of Charlie. I spoil him, you know. I buy him a nice car and everything. He travels a lot. He goes to California all the time and everything. But every time he goes on a trip, I say, before you leave, we're going to have a prayer. And he'll bow his head and listen, you know. And I don't know if it's in disgust or not, but he listens to me. And I ask the Heavenly Father to please bless him that have a safe journey. Anyway, when I touch him, not often with about the gospel and everything, I just let him know that it's true, you know. I pray every day for him to come back to the church. And I think he will sometime, but it might be a few years. It might be a few
Yeah.
years.
Well, the seed is there. I mean, it's planted and it's deep, and it's we don't give up on anybody. When people sit there and say, "Oh, we just had the missionaries come over, but we're not going to join the church." It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I think Jesus looks down and goes, "Challenge accepted."
Yeah. That's well said. Yeah, challenge accepted. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to, because people don't understand the forces that are working on the other side to make things happen. And when they announced the temple out there on Lone Mountain,
Yeah.
guys at work that live out there and stuff like that, they go, "Oh, man, you guys are trying to build a temple out there. We're going to make sure it doesn't get built." And some of them are like, "Oh, we don't care if it gets built or not," blah blah. And there was all this talk, and they're telling me this, and I'm going, waiting for everyone to say their piece, and I go, "I'm going to tell you something right now.
It's going to happen.
It's going to be built.
Yeah.
It may not be exactly what they drew up and said, here's what we're doing. It might change a little to accommodate a couple things. It's being built."
It's going. Yes, it will be.
I go, because God has said, "I'm building a temple here." And there is no discussion on it. You guys can complain about it and do all the things, but there's going to be a temple there. Because I can't remember it, but I don't think it has ever happened that we said we're building a temple in some place and it didn't happen.
Because the people saying we don't want it built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go, it doesn't happen. When the Lord says it's going to happen, a couple of these guys are atheists and stuff like that. And then I go, "Oh, yeah, what are you going to just pay everybody off?" I go, "You don't have to pay anyone off. We don't do that. Don't have to do any of this, guys. The Lord has said it's going to be built. It's going to be built. There is nothing that'll stop it once it's decided like that."
Yeah.
And of course, they're building it. This however later this is, how many years later it is after they announced it, it's going to be built. So, yeah, challenge accepted.
I like that, Joe.
Yeah,
That's good.
the Lord likes that. He goes, "Oh, okay, yeah. You just go keep believing whatever you want to believe. I've got other plans, and guess what? I'll win." So
Yeah.
I get to win this one.
Don't fight the word.
Nope, no, don't fight the great I am.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. I'm sorry Charlie doesn't want to have anything to do with it now, but like I say, it doesn't mean it's not ever going to happen. It's just means for
Well,
right now there's
He knows that I love him. I take good care of him.
that's all you can do.
And I spoil him. I mean, I buy him a nice Mercedes. It's an older one, but it's I want him to have class in his life. I mean, like I don't want him to be taking the bus to work or something. And everything. But anyway, long story short, now let's talk about my future goals. Right now, it's really funny. Last August of last year, August of 2025, it was a Sunday night late, about almost 9 o'clock at night. And I got a call from one of the counselors in the state presidency, President Colin Faught, F-A-U-G-H-T, Brother Faught. He said, "Brother Pace," he said, "this is, who Brother Faught." And I said, "Oh, hi," because I knew who he was. We knew each other. He said, "I've been talking to Rosie Murback, and I found out that you used to teach seminary with Rosie back in 2018 and 19. I said, "Yeah, I used to do that." He said, "Well, we need a seminary teacher, but not in your ward. We need a seminary teacher in the Viking chapel, because too many people are single, and they have different schedules, and they don't have anybody they can pull out of that ward to be a seminary teacher for these kids. We've got 10 or 11 kids that want to go to seminary." He said, "Would you consider being a seminary teacher at Viking?" "Well, yeah, I would." He says, "Okay, here's the other thing I want to tell you." He said, "Remember, this was Sunday night at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
He said, "The other thing I want to tell you," he said, "you start tomorrow at 6 o'clock." He said, "We'll set you apart when we get to it." So I said, "Well, see you later. I got to go to bed." We started laughing. But I'm very thankful that I was called. And of course, later they did set me apart, and I was sustained through the raising of hands. But I'm so thankful. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's not always fun to getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get cleaned up. But I'll tell you what. Once you get up and you go to seminary and you see the love of these kids and teaching the gospel, it's worth getting out of bed early. It really is. I thoroughly enjoy it. We've, growing up in the church and being on a mission in Finland and stuff, I knew, I'd read all these things before, but I hadn't really read them recently, the Old Testament, the New Testament, all that, everything. But now that we reviewed all the Doctrine and Covenants, which I hadn't read for a long time. I read a few of them, 89 and 76, the famous ones, but I hadn't really. So we went through that whole thing, and now we're talking about the Old Testament again, Of course, I read these years ago, but to go through and reunite myself with the Scriptures, like with the Old Testament things, it's helping me probably more than it's helping the kids, really.
Yeah.
It's really a wonderful thing, so I appreciate that. I'm very thankful, and when President Fott set me apart and to do this, I told him, because we had talked about my family, and I told him about Charlie, and he said that he blessed me that I would be a good inspiration for Charlie, and when we were done with the prayer, he says, I know that he'll come back to the church someday. I said, well, I know he will too. I said, it's hard for me to have him tell me that, the way he thinks right now. And he said, Ken, a lot of these young kids spend too much time on the internet and they hear, false stuff. And
Yeah.
So, but when he, excuse me, when he got through with that prayer, he just, we could feel the Spirit. It was like, he said he's going to come back someday. And
Yeah.
I pray for him every day.
Yeah, that's why we're getting a lot of this stuff that I believe the transgender, these kids in school all saying it because they get into these chat rooms and they say, "Oh, I'm trans." Oh, so am I. Well, I am too. It's like,
You know what?
Guys, none of you are. There's no such thing.
That is the
the biggest lie of Satan that we've seen in a long time
you
here.
took the words out of my mouth. That is Satan at his worst, or I'd say Satan at his best, whatever you say. It's rotten, it's evil, and you don't tell somebody that you're trans and you're going to be a girl now, and it's like
Yeah.
it's so disgusting, so despicable to me to even think about that. That people they actually have operation. It is absolutely insane to me that anybody would do that.
Yeah.
But they do.
Yeah, I've had a couple things on my other podcast just thinking where I talked about that in depth and just guys, it's a lie. You're being deceived.
Oh.
Don't do it. But anyways, that's not this
Well,
one. This is
talking about that. One of the things we learned in seminary recently was that President Russell M. Nelson, before he passed away, said, titles are really important. He said the most important title to him. This is the prophet of the church talking. He said the most important title that I have is that I am a child of God. I started thinking that is a really great thing. I'm a stockbroker, or I'm a podcast guy, or I'm a bishop in the church. I mean, titles are great,
Yeah.
But when you talk about the best one to be, I'm a child of God. We were all either male spirits or we were female spirits, period. You come down here, you're a male or you're female.
I'm pretty sure they
Satan
weren't
is
confused.
absolutely full bore right now.
Yeah, and they weren't confused up there. So
What?
it is such a hideous lie being pushed on kids and
know.
stuff. It's just
And how parents can allow their kid to be young, 8, 10, 12, whatever, 15, have an operation to be what you want to be. Like, oh, you're not a boy, you're really a girl. It's like, to me, it's so disgusting. And so I don't want to get into it too deeply, but
No.
it's
No, I agree with you.
absolutely devil Satan, full bore.
Yeah. So how long are you going to teach seminary? Another, 6 months, a year, 2, 3?
Well, I'll definitely go through this year.
Good.
I'll probably be asked to do it next year, and I'll accept that. I mean,
If you're enjoying it, you should.
I do. I love it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. We just had a Christmas break for 2 weeks. I got to sleep in until 8, 9, 10 o'clock. Oh, I loved it. Going back that first Monday was really hard. It's January 5th. But here it is. A week later, it's like, it's worth it. It's worth getting out of bed and seeing these kids grow in the gospel, and they'll bear their testimony or say something of it. I didn't think about that. That's really cool. These kids are they're high school kids,
Yeah. Yeah, I taught seminary down in Australia for a few months
Oh, good for you.
when the teacher bailed when I was down there. It enjoyable.
Yeah, you were a missionary in Australia. I knew that.
Yeah, it was a good time to go down there and teach. I enjoyed it.
Well, Craig, I just know that you weren't smart enough to learn a foreign language, so they sent you to an English-speaking country,
Hey.
I may say.
Australian is a different language. Believe me, Australian is a different language.
Well, you know how that got started. All the criminals were sent there from England, you know.
That's why we get along. Basically, we're both kind of rejects from England. You know,
Yeah,
and that's what it comes down to. Both of us were like, "Hey, get out." Okay, some of us said we're leaving, and some of the others told you're getting out.
Yeah.
We're leaving,
exactly.
And then Australia, they learned such a good lesson from that. They had, Australia became the penal colony, and then when they started having crime, they had a penal colony called Tasmania. So, and that was their penal colony. It was like,
Yeah, Tasmanian devil dog.
so
yeah.
is it like penal colony squared if you get to go, if you're sent there, because you must be the bad of the worst of the bad, or I don't know what it is, to be sent to a criminal's penal colony. A nation, criminal nation. You're too bad to be there. You got to go somewhere else to another.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite interesting. No, the history of Australia is really cool. I love the people down there, and
Yeah.
But I'll tell you right now, people tell me. I tell them, I said, no, Australian is another language, because I'm telling you right now, I went down there and knocked on a door and started talking to somebody, and they started talking back to me, and I just looked at my companion. I went, "What's he saying?"
It's your turn. It's your turn. Yeah.
I was like, I have no clue what he just said, because the different accents and the way it's like, wow, yeah. It took a couple months to get an ear for the accent to really be able to
Yeah.
converse with them, because it was like learning another language. It was like, wow. So maybe learning Finnish would be a little easier. I'm not sure. But,
Well, one of the nicest things you just said was that you really love the people down there.
yeah.
It's amazing when you go on a mission. I don't care what country you go to or whatever. When you go on, you love the people. I love the Finnish people and
Yep.
their, everything, their culture and their language, everything. Yeah, you just love the people you teach. It's amazing how that works. I don't know.
Yeah, I just find it so amazing, because it's like, even the people that want to give you a bad time, there's the Aussie teenagers were probably the worst people in the world, I think. But they'd see the missionaries drive by, and they would call you names and throw bottles and stuff at you and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
and you just go, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, c'est la vie. That's life on a mission. So, anything else you want to say real quick about anything else? Because we're just about at the end of this episode, and we're going to call it
just real
quick.
quickly, I just want you to know that my father was a really good businessman. For one thing, he did was amazing. He used back in the 50s and 60s, after he got back from World War II, he started buying land all around the Salt Lake Airport, which is just a small airport. He bought all the land around. He said, if they want to expand, they got to buy my land.
Yeah, that's smart.
My dad made millions of dollars selling land back to the airport. He was a really great businessman.
No,
Really
that's
good.
not unwise.
So I in that respect, I was really blessed with. I wasn't really born with a silver spoon, because my dad worked hard for all his money, but he left us some real great things, and with that, I I say this humbly. With that, I'm able to help people. I have friends that are not even most of them aren't even members of the church, but I'll tell you honestly, there's this one little lady, her street name is Sunshine. Her name is Norma Jean Carter. Stacy and I have helped her since 2002 or 3, 20-something years ago. She's a little street girl. She's a real nice little lady, but every once in a while she'll call me and say, "Oh, I need some help." When you're in the church and you are blessed with prosperity because you live the gospel, it's our mission and our obligation to really help people. And sometimes it's financially, sometimes it's emotionally. But Stacy and I, we've been helping Sunshine for a long time. She called me. In fact, she just called me yesterday and said, "Kenny, can you buy me 2 burritos? I don't have any food." Things like that. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
So, And I say it humbly. I'm saying it very humbly.
Oh.
Just when you're blessed with stuff in your life, don't be selfish about it. If I was selfish, I'd be worth millions of dollars. I am not wealthy at all right now. I go overboard, and I say that very humbly because I love helping people, and it's not for me. It's like, anyway, I just have been blessed with so many things, you know. But most of all, I was blessed with a really great offspring. I've got 5 biological boys, and of course, Derek, Stacy's son. I have 6 boys, and I'm very proud of that. But Craig, I want you to know that I really enjoyed this, and I hope that that you continue to do this because this is good for posterity and everything. And I want you to know, I want the audience to know that Craig Hayes is a really great man. I have many of his books, and we've been friends for quite a long time. So thank you very much for inviting me, Craig.
You're welcome. Thank you for participating in this. I think it's going to be fun for your family that can listen to it. I'll let you know about all that and listen to a little bit more about your life. And, you know, that's what I think is so cool is the stories. The stories are what's interesting, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do. So, Ken, thanks again for participating.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate
And
it.
being a friend, and you've been a very good friend for, I can't remember the first time that we met when we started here at church, but, you know.
Well, I can remember you and Stacy and I went shooting, you know, with our guns. I never got to shoot. I was just loading ammo for you and Stacy. You were bang, bang, bang shooting and stuff, and
Well,
I feel like an ammo man.
well,
But Stacy loved you too, Craig. You're a really great man. We all love you.
she was such an awesome lady. So thank you again, Ken.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today. And until we meet again,
Thank you for listening to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show.